I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Right now, while you rest, your brain is preparing to do something it has been perfecting for hundreds of millions of years. You'll discover what actually happens inside your mind during the deepest hours of sleep. And by the end of tonight, you'll understand why those quiet, invisible hours may be the most powerful thing your body ever does. Welcome to Sleepy Mind Science. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying still in the quiet dark, perhaps feeling the soft weight of blankets settling around you, allow yourself this moment of complete permission. We'll journey through 100 sleep science facts about deep sleep, from the ancient rhythms your brain follows without any instruction, to the invisible repairs happening inside you even now, to the moment consciousness gently dissolves into something deeper and more restoring than waking life can offer. These gentle journeys through sleep science create a quiet community of curious, restful minds. A soft subscribe, like, or sharing this with someone who needs rest creates a pathway for more sleepless souls to find this peaceful space, and brings us closer to protecting it, one sleepy soul at a time. It means everything to us that you're here. Settle deeper into your pillows now. Let your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your breathing slow and grow steady. You don't need to hold on to any of this science tonight. Just notice that warm, drowsy heaviness beginning to spread through you. Like your whole body is remembering something it has always known how to do. Sleep is already on its way. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where the sleeping mind moves beneath the surface of thought. Let your mind sink with the tide of your own quiet breath. And now we begin. Sleep is not a pause in life. It is one of life's most active states. For most of human history, sleep was considered a kind of passive emptiness, a time when the body and mind simply waited for morning. Modern neuroscience has completely overturned that understanding. During sleep, your brain shifts into a highly organized series of biological programs, each serving a specific and essential purpose. Memory is consolidated, emotional experiences are processed, cellular damage is repaired. The brain itself is physically cleaned. Sleep, it turns out, is not the absence of living. It is one of the most productive things a living body can do. Sleep follows a precise architecture that repeats through the night. Your sleep is not a single uniform state. It is divided into cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes. And each cycle contains distinct stages with different brainwave patterns, different physiological functions, and different contributions to your health. A full night of sleep typically includes 4 to 6 of these cycles. Missing even 1 or 2 cycles can have measurable effects on memory, mood, and physical recovery. The structure of sleep is as organized as any biological system in the body, and it follows this architecture whether or not you are aware of it. There are 4 distinct stages of sleep, organized into 2 broad categories. The first category is non-REM sleep, which includes 3 stages of progressively deeper rest. The second category is REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, where dreaming most commonly occurs. Each stage has a signature pattern of electrical activity in the brain, and each contributes something different to your well-being. Stage 1 is a light transition. Stage 2 is where you spend the most total time during the night. Stage 3 often called slow-wave sleep or deep sleep, is the most physically restorative. REM sleep is the most mentally active. Together, they form a complete and elegant system. Your brain generates measurable electrical waves during sleep, and those waves change as you descend. When you are awake and alert, your brain produces fast, irregular electrical patterns called beta waves. As you relax, these slow into alpha waves. In the earliest stage of sleep, theta waves emerge, and in the deepest stage of non-REM sleep, the brain produces slow, large waves called delta waves. These delta waves are the electrical signature of the most profound rest your brain achieves. Researchers can measure them precisely with instruments placed gently on the scalp, and they represent a kind of neurological quiet that waking life never reaches. Stage 2 sleep introduces a remarkable phenomenon called sleep spindles. Sleep spindles are brief, sudden bursts of coordinated neural activity that appear in the brain like small fireworks, lasting less than 2 seconds each. Researchers now understand that sleep spindles play a central role in memory consolidation, particularly the kind of memory involved in learning skills and facts. People who show more sleep spindles during a night of rest tend to perform better on memory tests the following day. These tiny electrical events, invisible and unfelt, are quietly building the architecture of what you will remember tomorrow. Deep sleep, or slow-wave sleep, is when your body does its most quietly generous physical repair. During stage 3, sleep, the pituitary gland releases the largest pulse of human growth hormone that your body produces in any given day. This hormone is not only responsible for physical growth in childhood. In adults, it drives the repair of muscles, bones, and connective tissue. It supports immune function, regulates metabolism, and helps maintain the health of nearly every organ system. The hours you spend in deep sleep are not passive hours. They are your body's primary window for structural maintenance. Your heart rate and breathing slow significantly during deep sleep, and this slowdown is deeply restorative. In slow-wave sleep, the cardiovascular system experiences a kind of biological rest that it cannot achieve while you are awake. Blood pressure drops measurably. Heart rate variability shifts in ways associated with reduced stress on the heart. Research has consistently linked sufficient deep sleep with lower long-term risk of cardiovascular disease. Each night of deep, uninterrupted sleep is, in a quiet and invisible way, one of the most heart-protective things you can do for yourself. The brain has its own internal cleaning system, and it is most active during deep sleep. This system is called the glymphatic system, a network of fluid channels that runs alongside blood vessels in the brain. It was first described in 2012 by a team led by neuroscientist Macon Nedergaard at the University of Rochester. A key follow-up study in 2013 found, in animal models, that the spaces between brain cells expand by roughly 60% during sleep, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to move more freely through the tissue. Research in humans, while more complex to measure directly, has since provided supporting evidence through brain imaging studies showing increased cerebrospinal fluid flow during deep sleep. The sleeping brain, it appears, creates the physical conditions for its own cleaning. One of the most significant waste products cleared by the glymphatic system is beta amyloid, a protein that accumulates in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. Before the glymphatic discovery, the mechanism by which the brain cleared waste was poorly understood, because the brain maintains its own closed ecosystem, separated from the body's lymphatic network by the blood-brain barrier. Understanding the glymphatic system fundamentally changed the scientific picture of why insufficient sleep is so harmful over time. When sleep is consistently too short or too fragmented, the brain's waste clearance is incomplete, and metabolic byproducts accumulate. Deep sleep is not a luxury for the brain. It is a biological necessity in the most literal sense. REM sleep was discovered in 1953 by graduate student Eugene Aserinsky and his advisor Nathaniel Kleitman at the University of Chicago. Aserinsky had attached electrodes near his 8-year-old son's eyes to record eye movements during sleep. While watching the data unfold on scrolling paper, he noticed bursts of rapid, coordinated eye movement occurring at regular intervals through the night. He went to check on his son, expecting to find him awake. Instead, the boy was sleeping soundly. That quiet observation in a borrowed laboratory room opened the door to everything that followed in sleep science, leading eventually to the identification of REM as a distinct and biologically active stage of sleep unlike anything previously described. During REM sleep, the brain is nearly as active as it is when you are fully awake. Brain imaging studies show that large areas of the cortex, the emotional centers of the brain, and the visual processing regions are all highly engaged during REM, yet the body is almost entirely paralyzed. A neurological mechanism called REM atonia temporarily inhibits the motor neurons that control voluntary movement, preventing you from physically acting out your dreams. This combination of a highly active brain and a completely still body is one of the most biologically unusual states in nature. You are both deeply unconscious and neurologically alive. The balance between REM and deep sleep shifts across the night in a predictable pattern. Early in the night, the sleep cycles are dominated by slow-wave deep sleep. The body prioritizes physical restoration in the first half of the night. In the second half of the night, the cycles shift, and REM sleep becomes longer and more prominent. By the early morning hours, a single REM period can last as long as an hour. This is why dreams are often most vivid just before waking. It is also why sleeping through the full night matters so much. Cutting sleep short, even by an hour or two, disproportionately reduces REM sleep, which is concentrated at the end of the night. Your body temperature drops during sleep, and this drop is not incidental. It is an active and necessary part of the sleep process. The brain's thermoregulatory center, located in the hypothalamus, initiates a deliberate lowering of core body temperature as sleep begins. This cooling helps trigger the biochemical cascade that allows deep sleep to deepen. A cooler core temperature slows metabolic activity, reduces cellular wear, and signals the brain to shift into its restorative states. This is why sleeping in a cool room tends to produce better quality sleep than sleeping in a warm one. The ideal sleeping temperature for most adults is somewhere between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Melatonin is the hormone that signals your brain that darkness has arrived and sleep should begin. It is produced by the pineal gland, a small structure deep in the brain that has been called the third eye in various philosophical traditions. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. It does not sedate. It is more accurately described as a biological signal, a quiet message from your body's internal clock saying that the time for rest has come. Melatonin levels rise gradually after sunset, peak in the middle of the night, and fall again toward morning. This gentle hormonal tide has been rising and falling in human bodies for as long as humans have existed under the rhythm of day and night. The circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock, is one of the most fundamental biological systems in living organisms. It is not a metaphor. It is a real molecular mechanism, driven by a set of genes called clock genes that operate in a feedback loop within individual cells throughout the body. In the brain, the master circadian clock is housed in a tiny structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Located in the hypothalamus, this cluster of roughly 20,000 neurons receives direct input from the eyes about light and dark, and uses that information to synchronize the timing of nearly every biological process in the body. The discovery of the molecular mechanism of the circadian clock earned the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2017. Light is the most powerful external regulator of your circadian rhythm. Specialized cells in the retina, called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, detect light specifically in the blue wavelength range and send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. In the natural world, blue light is abundant in morning sunlight and absent in firelight and candlelight. The presence of blue light in the evening, from screens, LED lights, and indoor lighting, tells the suprachiasmatic nucleus that it is still daytime, suppresses melatonin production, and delays the onset of sleep. This is not a subjective sensitivity. It is a measurable physiological effect observed consistently across research populations. Adenosine is a chemical that builds up in your brain the longer you are awake, and it is the primary biological driver of sleep pressure. From the moment you wake up, adenosine begins accumulating in the fluid surrounding brain cells. As its concentration rises through the day, it binds to receptors in the brain and progressively suppresses neural activity, creating the sensation of increasing tiredness. Sleep clears adenosine from the brain. This is one of the reasons that a full night of sleep leaves you feeling genuinely refreshed rather than merely rested. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors, temporarily masking the feeling of tiredness without actually reducing the underlying adenosine load. During deep sleep, the hippocampus transfers newly formed memories to the cortex for long-term storage. The hippocampus, a curved structure in the temporal lobe of the brain, acts as a temporary holding space for new information acquired during the day. It is not designed for permanent storage. During slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus replays the neural patterns of waking experiences and, in coordination with the cortex, gradually transfers those representations into more stable, long-term storage. This process, called memory consolidation, is one of the most important functions of sleep. Without adequate deep sleep, the memories of the previous day remain fragile and vulnerable to being lost. Sleep deprivation impairs memory formation in ways that are immediate and measurable. Studies using functional brain imaging have shown that after a night of poor sleep, the hippocampus shows reduced activation when encoding new information, while alternative, less efficient memory pathways become more active. Research at the University of California, Berkeley, found that sleep deprivation imposed roughly a 40% reduction in the ability to form new memories. Compared to people who had slept normally before learning, information absorbed after poor sleep is stored less reliably and fades more quickly. The sleeping brain does not merely file away what you learned. It also gently softens how it feels and clears the desk for tomorrow. The immune system is deeply dependent on sleep for optimal function. During sleep, the body produces and releases cytokines, signaling proteins that help regulate immune responses, fight infection, and reduce inflammation. Some cytokines are produced only during sleep. Sleep deprivation consistently suppresses immune function. Research has shown that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night are more likely to develop symptoms when exposed to a cold virus than those who sleep 7 or more hours. This relationship between sleep and immune defense is not subtle. A single night of poor sleep measurably reduces natural killer cell activity, the frontline immune response against infected and abnormal cells. Sleep plays a central role in emotional regulation. During REM sleep in particular, the brain processes emotional memories in a way that reduces their intensity. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, is highly active during REM, but it operates in a neurochemical environment that is different from waking. Specifically, norepinephrine, a stress-related neurotransmitter, is almost completely absent during REM sleep. This unique condition allows the brain to re-experience and reprocess emotionally significant memories without the physiological stress response that accompanied them originally. Sleep, in a very real sense, takes the sharp edges off difficult experiences. Chronic sleep deprivation is associated with increased activity in the amygdala and reduced connectivity between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for rational decision-making, impulse control, and the modulation of emotional reactions. When the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala is weakened by sleep loss, emotional responses become more intense, less controlled, and less proportionate to the actual situation. Research published in major neuroscience journals has described this as a fundamental dysregulation of the emotional brain. The tired irritability most people have experienced firsthand is, at its root, a neurological phenomenon. The amount of sleep humans need has been extensively studied, and the findings are remarkably consistent. For adults between the ages of 18 and 64, the recommended duration is 7 to 9 hours per night. According to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and the Sleep Research Society, for teenagers, the recommendation rises to 8 to 10 hours. For school-aged children, 9 to 11 hours. These are not arbitrary numbers. They reflect the amount of time required to complete the necessary cycles of deep sleep and REM sleep that the body and brain depend on for full biological maintenance. A very small percentage of people carry genetic variants that allow them to function well on less. For the vast majority, fewer than 7 hours represents biological deprivation. Sleep architecture changes significantly across a human lifespan. Newborn infants spend roughly 50% of their sleep in a state that resembles REM, far more than adults. This disproportionate REM sleep in infancy is thought to reflect the extraordinary rate of brain development occurring in the first months and years of life. As humans age into adulthood, the proportion of deep slow-wave sleep gradually decreases. By the age of 65, many people have lost a significant fraction of the slow-wave sleep they experienced in their 20s and 30s. This age-related decline in deep sleep is associated with changes in memory, metabolism, and immune function, and is an active area of current research. Sleep is universal among animals, but it takes strikingly different forms across the natural world. Dolphins and some whales practice unihemispheric sleep, allowing one half of the brain to sleep while the other remains alert, enabling them to surface for air and stay vigilant against threats. Migratory birds can sleep while flying, with one eye open and one hemisphere of the brain resting at a time. Elephants in the wild sleep an average of only 2 hours per night, among the shortest sleep durations of any mammal studied. Fruit flies sleep, and when deprived of sleep, they show cognitive effects similar to those seen in sleep-deprived mammals. The need for sleep is so deeply embedded in biology that it has been maintained across hundreds of millions of years of evolution in forms as different from us as insects and whales. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside. Trillions of processes working in silence right now. Your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your sleeping brain already beginning its quiet work, all without any effort from you at all. Every cell in your body knows how to do this. This knowledge is older than memory, older than language. Notice the gentle weight of your own body against the surface beneath you. You are already exactly where you need to be. Now we continue. The word sleep comes from the Old English word slap, which shares its origins with similar words across Germanic languages, all pointing toward the same idea: a loosening, a release, a coming undone. Across human cultures and throughout recorded history, sleep has been understood as a threshold between the ordinary world and something else. Something quieter, something deeper. Ancient Egyptians associated sleep with the god Shu, who represented the empty space between earth and sky. In Greek mythology, Hypnos, the god of sleep, was the twin brother of Thanatos, the god of death, and the two were understood as related but profoundly different experiences. The reverence humans have held for sleep across all times and places reflects something real about its power. The pineal gland, which produces melatonin, was described by the philosopher René Descartes in the 17th century as the seat of the soul. He believed it was the point where the immaterial mind and the physical body made contact. While modern neuroscience does not support that particular interpretation, the pineal gland does occupy a genuinely unusual position in brain anatomy. It sits outside the blood-brain barrier, the protective filtering system that keeps most substances out of the brain. It receives direct neural input from the retinas of both eyes, and its output, melatonin, influences biological timing in virtually every cell of the body. The structure Descartes chose for his philosophical claim turns out, in its own way, to be quite special. Non-REM, sleep stage 2, contains not only sleep spindles, but also another distinctive feature called K-complexes. K-complexes are large, slow electrical waves in the brain that appear suddenly and then subside. They were first described in the 1930s, and for decades their function was uncertain. Current research suggests that K-complexes serve a dual purpose. They may help suppress arousal, actively preventing the sleeping brain from waking in response to minor environmental sounds or sensory inputs. And they may also participate in memory consolidation, coordinating communication between the hippocampus and the cortex. These quiet electrical events, occurring dozens of times each hour, are part of the mechanism that keeps you gently, protectively asleep. The glymphatic system moves cerebrospinal fluid through the brain along channels that surround blood vessels. This fluid is not simply passive, it is actively driven by the pulsing of blood vessels with each heartbeat. During deep sleep, the slow, regular contractions of the heart create a gentle rhythmic pressure that helps drive cerebrospinal fluid through brain tissue. The sleeping brain is, in this sense, being rhythmically supported by its own circulatory system, and this rhythm is part of what makes the cleaning possible. The beauty of this mechanism is its elegance. The same heartbeat that sustains life during the day also supports the brain's internal maintenance through the night. Orexin, also called hypocretin, is a neurotransmitter produced in the hypothalamus that plays a central role in maintaining wakefulness. It does not simply keep you awake, it stabilizes the boundary between sleep and waking, preventing abrupt transitions from one state to the other. When the orexin system is damaged or destroyed, as occurs in the neurological condition narcolepsy, the boundary between sleep and waking becomes unstable. People with narcolepsy can fall suddenly and uncontrollably into REM sleep during waking hours, sometimes triggered by strong emotion. The discovery of orexin's role in sleep-wake regulation has fundamentally advanced the treatment of sleep disorders and is now the basis for a class of sleep medications that work by gently modulating the wakefulness signal rather than using sedative mechanisms. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's master clock, contains about 20,000 neurons, which is a remarkably small number for a structure with such sweeping biological influence. These neurons maintain their roughly 24-hour rhythm even when isolated in a laboratory dish, cut off from all external input. The circadian rhythm is, in other words, not just a response to the environment. It is an intrinsic property of the cells themselves. The genes that drive this rhythm, including genes named period, cryptochrome, and clock, form an interlocking molecular feedback loop that takes approximately 24 hours to complete one full cycle. Life on Earth evolved under the reliable alternation of day and night, and that rhythm has become written into the chemistry of cells. Social jet lag is a phenomenon identified by sleep researcher Till Rueneberg of Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. It describes the mismatch between the biological sleep timing preferred by an individual's circadian rhythm and the sleep timing imposed by social and occupational schedules. Most people sleep later on weekends than on weekdays, and the difference between these two schedules, measured in hours, constitutes their social jet lag. Research has found that social jet lag is associated with increased rates of obesity, cardiovascular disease, depression, and reduced performance across multiple life domains. The chronic misalignment between biological time and social time affects a significant proportion of the working population, and its health consequences are ongoing and cumulative. Adolescents are not simply choosing to stay up late. Their circadian rhythms shift biologically during puberty. driven by hormonal changes, pushing the natural sleep timing later by 1 to 3 hours compared to childhood or adulthood. This shift is observed in adolescents across cultures and geographic locations, suggesting it is a genuine biological phenomenon rather than a behavioral one. Research published in medical and public health journals has consistently found that later school start times are associated with improved sleep duration, better academic performance, reduced rates of depression, and fewer automobile accidents among teenage drivers. Understanding the biology of adolescent sleep is one of the more quietly consequential applications of sleep science. NREM sleep and REM sleep involve fundamentally different patterns of activity in the prefrontal cortex, the most evolutionarily advanced part of the human brain. During slow-wave sleep, the prefrontal cortex is relatively quiet, allowing the older, more instinctive parts of the brain to do their restoration work. During REM sleep, activity in some prefrontal regions is reduced, while others remain partially engaged. But the brain operates differently than in waking life. Its usual capacity for critical evaluation and logical oversight is diminished, which may be part of why dreams feel entirely convincing and real while they are happening. The temporarily loosened oversight of the dreaming mind may be a feature rather than a flaw, allowing emotional and associative thinking to operate more freely. Sleep and creativity are linked in ways that are measurable and specific. REM sleep in particular appears to support the kind of thinking that connects distant, loosely related concepts. In a series of studies, participants were given problems that could be solved most efficiently by noticing a hidden pattern or relationship between elements. Those who slept between their initial exposure to the problem and their final test were nearly 3 times more likely to discover the hidden solution than those who remained awake. The sleeping brain, it appears, is doing a kind of loose, associative processing that waking-directed thinking does not easily achieve. The expression "sleeping on a problem" reflects a genuine cognitive phenomenon. The experience of falling while drifting off to sleep, followed by a sudden jerk that wakes you, is called a hypnic jerk or sleep start. It is one of the most common experiences in the transition between wakefulness and sleep, reported by 60 to 70% of people. Several explanations have been proposed. One is that the hypnic jerk is caused by a kind of neural misfiring as the brain transitions from the alert patterns of wakefulness to the slower patterns of sleep onset. Another theory suggests it may be an evolutionary remnant, a reflex inherited from primate ancestors, for whom relaxing muscles while beginning to sleep in a tree could mean losing grip and falling. Whether or not that evolutionary explanation is correct, the feeling is familiar and entirely harmless. Parasomnias are a group of sleep phenomena involving unusual behaviors or experiences that occur during sleep or the transitions between sleep and wakefulness. They include sleepwalking, sleep talking, sleep terrors, and REM, sleep behavior disorder, a condition in which the normal muscle paralysis of REM sleep is absent, causing people to physically act out their dreams. Some parasomnias occur during non-REM sleep, when consciousness is deeply suppressed, and people who experience them have no memory of the events afterward. Parasomnias are generally more common in children, with sleepwalking affecting roughly 15% of children and decreasing with age in most cases. Their mechanisms involve partial arousal from sleep, in which some brain systems are awake, while others remain in sleep states. Napping has been practiced in cultures around the world for thousands of years, and its benefits are supported by considerable scientific evidence. A nap of 10 to 20 minutes, often called a power nap, can restore alertness, improve mood, and enhance cognitive performance for several hours. Research by NASA found that a 40-minute nap improved pilot performance by 34% and alertness by 100%. However, naps longer than 30 minutes can lead to sleep inertia, the grogged, disoriented feeling caused by waking from deep sleep before its natural completion. The optimal nap duration for most people is between 10 and 20 minutes, timed to avoid late afternoon if nighttime sleep is a priority. The relationship between sleep and learning is bidirectional. Not only does sleep consolidate memories formed during the day, but it also prepares the brain to learn more effectively the following day. Research has shown that a single night of sleep deprivation reduces the brain's capacity to form new memories the next day by roughly 40%, compared to a fully rested state. The hippocampus, carrying unconsolidated memories from the previous day, has limited capacity to absorb new information. Sleep, in this sense, does not merely file away what you have learned. It also clears the desk for tomorrow's learning. The relationship is a continuous cycle of acquisition, consolidation, and renewed capacity. Dreams occur across all stages of sleep, not only during REM, while the most vivid, narrative, and emotionally intense dreams are associated with REM sleep. Research using techniques that wake sleepers at different stages and ask them to report their mental content has shown that dreaming of some kind occurs across the night. Non-REM dreams tend to be less narrative, more fragmentary, and more abstract. The fleeting images and sensations experienced while falling asleep are a form of dreamlike experience. In the transition between wakefulness and stage 1 sleep, the boundary between dreaming and not dreaming is less clear than early sleep research assumed. What is clear is that the sleeping mind is never truly idle, and that understanding this changes how we value every quiet hour of the night we give ourselves. You're still here, still listening, still gently following these quiet facts through the science of sleep. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels a little heavier now than it did when we began. We're drifting through the science of deep sleep together. You and I and everyone listening in the quiet dark tonight. There's no hurry, no destination but rest. Let's continue. Sleep disorders affect a significant portion of the global population. The American Academy of Sleep Medicine estimates that between 50 and 70 million adults in the United States alone live with a chronic sleep disorder. The most prevalent among them are insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and circadian rhythm disorders. The economic and public health consequences of untreated sleep disorders are substantial. Reduced workplace productivity, increased accident rates, higher rates of cardiovascular and metabolic disease, and greater use of healthcare resources are all associated with chronic sleep disruption. Sleep health has become increasingly recognized as a pillar of public health, comparable in importance to nutrition and physical activity. Insomnia is the most common sleep disorder, defined by difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking too early. occurring at least 3 nights per week and causing meaningful daytime impairment. Chronic insomnia is diagnosed when these difficulties persist for at least 3 months. The most effective long-term treatment for chronic insomnia is not medication, but a form of cognitive behavioral therapy called CBTI, which stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. Large clinical trials and meta-analyses have consistently found CBTI to be more effective than sleep medications in producing lasting improvements in sleep quality. Without the side effects or dependency risks associated with pharmacological treatment, CBTI is now recommended as the first-line treatment by major medical organizations worldwide. Sleep apnea is a condition in which breathing repeatedly pauses during sleep, causing fragmented sleep and reduced oxygen levels. Obstructive sleep apnea, the most common form, occurs when the muscles of the throat relax during sleep, allowing the airway to narrow or close. Each pause in breathing triggers a partial arousal, often too brief to be remembered, but sufficient to prevent the deep, sustained sleep the body requires. Untreated sleep apnea is associated with increased risk of hypertension, atrial fibrillation, type 2 diabetes, a stroke, and heart disease. The most effective treatment is continuous positive airway pressure therapy, known as CPAP, which maintains airway patency through the night by delivering a gentle, constant flow of pressurized air. Restless leg syndrome is a neurological condition characterized by uncomfortable sensations in the legs, typically described as crawling, itching, or an overwhelming urge to move, that are most intense at rest and at night. It affects between 5 and 10% of adults and is often under-recognized. The sensations are relieved temporarily by movement, which is why the condition is particularly disruptive to sleep. Research has identified associations between restless leg syndrome and iron deficiency, dopamine dysregulation, and genetic factors. For many people, addressing underlying iron deficiency or using dopamine-related treatments significantly reduces symptoms and allows sleep to return to a more natural rhythm. The relationship between sleep and metabolism is intricate and bidirectional. Sleep deprivation alters the levels of 2 hormones that regulate appetite, leptin and ghrelin. Leptin suppresses hunger and signals satiety. Ghrelin stimulates appetite. After insufficient sleep, leptin levels fall and ghrelin levels rise, producing a biochemical drive toward increased food intake, particularly calorie-dense foods. Research has shown that sleep-restricted individuals tend to consume more calories per day than when fully rested. Over time, chronic short sleep is associated with increased risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Sleep is not merely a period of physical rest. It is part of the metabolic regulation system that governs how the body uses and stores energy. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, follows a circadian pattern that is deeply connected to sleep. Cortisol levels are lowest in the middle of the night during deep sleep, reaching their lowest point around midnight to 2 in the morning. They then begin to rise in the final hours of sleep, reaching their daily peak shortly after waking. This morning, cortisol surge is part of the biological mechanism that facilitates arousal and prepares the body and mind for the day. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts this pattern, elevating nighttime cortisol levels and blunting the healthy morning peak The resulting dysregulation is associated with increased stress reactivity, impaired immune function, and reduced quality of sleep in a self-reinforcing cycle. During slow-wave sleep, cerebrospinal fluid not only clears metabolic waste, but also appears to play a role in regulating mood. A study published in the journal Science found that slow oscillations in brain activity during deep sleep drive waves of cerebrospinal fluid through the brain in a pulsing, rhythmic pattern. The magnitude of these fluid waves was found to correlate with the quality of mood the following morning. Participants who showed larger fluid oscillations during deep sleep reported better mood, lower anxiety, and higher emotional resilience the next day. The physical maintenance of the brain during sleep is, in this way, connected not only to cognitive function, but to emotional well-being. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, often abbreviated as BDNF, is a protein that supports the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons. It plays a central role in learning, memory, and mood regulation. Sleep is one of the primary conditions under which BDNF is synthesized and released in the brain. Sleep deprivation consistently reduces BDNF levels. This reduction is thought to contribute to the cognitive effects and mood disturbances associated with poor sleep, and may also link chronic sleep deprivation to increased risk of depression over time. Sleep is not only repairing the brain from the demands of the day, it is also building the biological substrate for tomorrow's thinking. The phenomenon of sleep being influenced by social factors, called social sleep, is a growing area of research. Studies using activity trackers and sleep logs across multiple cultures have found that sleeping near a trusted partner or companion is associated with longer and more stable sleep compared to sleeping alone. The proposed mechanism involves the regulation of cortisol and the feeling of physiological safety. Conversely, social conflict and feelings of social exclusion have been shown to disrupt sleep in measurable ways. Sleep is not only a biological process, it is also shaped by our sense of belonging and safety in the world around us. We have reached the midpoint of our journey tonight. 50 facts about the science of deep sleep, and already the picture emerging is one of extraordinary complexity and beauty. Sleep is not a single thing. It is a landscape, a terrain of stages and rhythms and cycles, each serving something essential in the architecture of being human. The deeper we go, the more it becomes clear that sleep is not what the body does when life is on hold. Sleep is what makes life possible. The second half of our journey moves deeper, into the quieter, more philosophical places that sleep opens up, and it is entirely fine if your eyes are growing heavier as we go. Let each breath guide you gently deeper. Time is different here. While you rest, your brain is doing something it has been doing every night for your entire life. Quietly, reliably, without asking anything of you, the rhythms you are following right now are older than civilization, older than language. They have been keeping living things alive through the dark for hundreds of millions of years. This moment, this quiet breath, this gradual heaviness, belongs only to you. And we continue drifting. Sleep is connected to neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, the synaptic connections formed during waking hours are selectively strengthened or pruned. The synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, proposed by sleep researchers Giulio Tononi and Chiara Sorelli, suggests that waking life increases the strength of synaptic connections in the brain, and sleep restores them to a sustainable baseline by selectively reducing the weakest ones. This overnight calibration is thought to be essential for efficient learning, clear thinking, and adaptive behavior. Sleep is, in this view, not only saving memories, it is editing the brain itself. The default mode network is a set of interconnected brain regions that become most active when the mind is not focused on a specific external task. It is the neural substrate of mind wandering, self-reflection, imagining the future, and thinking about other people. During certain stages of sleep, the default mode network shows patterns of activity that resemble its waking states. Some researchers have proposed that the narrative, self-referential nature of dreams may reflect the activity of this network during sleep. The brain, it appears, never fully stops the quiet internal conversation that defines the reflective, imaginative human mind. Lucid dreaming is the state of being aware that one is dreaming while the dream continues. Research using polysomnography and functional brain imaging has confirmed that lucid dreaming is a genuine hybrid state of consciousness, sharing features with both waking and REM sleep. During lucid dreaming, activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is normally reduced during REM, shows partial reactivation. Studies have identified specific patterns of neural oscillation in the gamma frequency range that are associated with the onset of lucidity in dreams. Lucid dreaming occurs spontaneously in many people, particularly children and adolescents, and can also be cultivated through certain awareness practices. The sleep patterns of hunter-gatherer populations, studied as a way of understanding sleep in environments closer to those in which human biology evolved, differ in interesting ways from modern industrial sleep patterns. A study by Jerome Siegel and colleagues at the University of California, Los Angeles, found that members of 3 hunter-gatherer groups in Africa and South America typically slept between 6.5 and 7.5 hours per night. They did not typically nap regularly. They fell asleep several hours after sunset and often woke before sunrise. These observational findings suggest that the core biology of human sleep timing is relatively consistent across very different environments and ways of life. Slow oscillations in deep sleep, the large, slow waves of coordinated neural activity that define slow-wave sleep, travel across the cortex in a wave-like pattern, moving from the front of the brain toward the back. This direction of travel is not random. It reflects the underlying connectivity of the brain, and the specific path the wave travels appears to be important for the coordination of communication between the hippocampus and the cortex during memory consolidation. The sleeping brain is not producing uniform activity. It is generating a precisely choreographed sequence of events, unfolding in space and time, in ways that researchers are still working to fully map and understand. Targeted memory reactivation is a technique that takes advantage of the memory consolidation processes of sleep when a specific sensory cue, such as a smell or a sound, is paired with new learning during wakefulness and then presented again quietly during slow-wave sleep. The associated memories are preferentially consolidated. In experiments, participants who learned word pairs while a particular odor was present, and then had that odor diffused softly into their sleeping environment during slow-wave sleep, showed significantly better retention of those word pairs the following morning. The sleeping brain can be gently guided towards specific memories, and the implications for learning and therapeutic applications are actively being explored. The relationship between sleep and pain is strongly reciprocal. Poor sleep amplifies the perception of pain, and pain disrupts sleep. Research has shown that sleep deprivation increases sensitivity to thermal pain, decreases pain thresholds, and enhances the emotional unpleasantness of painful stimuli. The mechanism involves both the descending pain modulation pathways that normally suppress pain signals and the inflammatory processes that sleep deprivation activates. For people living with chronic pain conditions, addressing sleep quality is now considered an important component of comprehensive pain management. Improving sleep often reduces pain, and reducing pain makes it easier to sleep. The two systems are deeply entwined. The sleeping brain processes language and responds to meaningful speech in ways that waking researchers did not initially expect. Studies have shown that during sleep, the brain can detect its own name, can distinguish between real words and nonsense words, and in some conditions can even respond to simple commands. This processing occurs without awareness and without waking the sleeper. The implications suggest that the brain maintains a degree of monitoring of the external environment even during sleep, filtering out irrelevant noise while remaining attuned to potentially significant sounds. The sleeping mind is not absent from the world. It is quietly, selectively attending to it. Thermal imaging and thermometric studies of sleeping individuals have revealed that during deep sleep, heat is redistributed from the body's core to its periphery. Blood vessels in the hands and feet dilate, allowing heat to radiate away from the body's surface. This peripheral vasodilation is part of the active cooling mechanism that supports deep sleep. It is one reason why warm hands and feet are associated with faster sleep onset. The body is, in this sense, venting heat in preparation for the deeper states of rest. Gentle warming of the hands and feet in the evening, through a warm bath or warm socks, has been shown in research to accelerate sleep onset in a measurable way. The amount of slow-wave sleep a person obtains on a given night is partly determined by how long they have been awake and by the level of cognitive engagement during the preceding day. This relationship is sometimes called sleep homeostasis. Demanding mental work increases the accumulation of sleep, need more than passive activity, and the brain responds by producing more slow-wave sleep on the subsequent night. This is why intellectually active days are sometimes followed by unusually deep and restoring sleep. The brain is calibrating its own recovery, allocating slow-wave sleep in proportion to the cognitive demands that preceded it. The color and quality of dreams tend to reflect the dominant sensory experiences of waking life, and they may have changed across history as our visual environments changed. Research examining dream reports from people who grew up watching black and white television found they were more likely to describe dreaming in shades of gray, compared to those who grew up with color. Whether this reflects the dreaming mind drawing on the palette of available experience, or simply a different way of remembering and describing dreams, is still an open question. What it gently suggests is that the dreaming mind is not generating images from nowhere. It is working with the textures and colors of the life that surrounds it. The thalamus, a paired structure deep in the center of the brain, acts as a relay station for sensory information flowing between the body and the cortex during waking. During sleep, the thalamus transitions into a different mode of operation. Rather than relaying incoming sensory signals to the cortex, it begins generating its own rhythmic oscillations and shifts into a state that partially blocks external sensory input from reaching consciousness. This thalamic gating is part of the mechanism that allows you to remain asleep through moderate environmental sounds. It is not that the brain becomes deaf during sleep. It is that the thalamus is selectively filtering what reaches awareness, allowing rest to continue even as the world outside continues. B, D, N, F levels in the hippocampus follow a pattern that is influenced by the timing and quality of sleep. Studies have shown that sleep promotes the synthesis of BDNF in the hippocampus, and that this synthesis is particularly associated with slow-wave sleep. BDNF in the hippocampus supports the growth of new synaptic connections. The process of long-term potentiation that underlies memory formation and the health and survival of hippocampal neurons. The clinical implication is that consistent, high-quality sleep may help maintain hippocampal health across the lifespan, with potential relevance for the preservation of memory and cognitive clarity as we age. The gut microbiome, the community of trillions of microorganisms living in the digestive system, communicates with the brain through multiple pathways, including the vagus nerve, the enteric nervous system, and the production of neurotransmitter precursors. Research published in recent years has found bidirectional relationships between the composition of the gut microbiome and sleep quality. Specific bacterial populations appear to influence the production of serotonin and melatonin precursors, which in turn affect sleep timing and quality. Disrupted sleep, conversely, alters the composition and diversity of the gut microbiome in ways that can affect digestion, immune function, and mood. The relationship between the gut, the brain, and sleep is an emerging area of active and rapidly evolving research. The suprachiasmatic nucleus contains not only a master clock, but also the mechanism for adjusting that clock in response to light. Specialized photosensitive cells in the retina send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus through a dedicated neural pathway. These cells use a photopigment called melanopsin, which is most sensitive to short-wavelength blue light. This is distinct from the photoreceptors used for visual perception. The circadian system has its own dedicated light-sensing apparatus, independent of vision itself. People who are visually blind but retain these specialized cells can still synchronize their circadian rhythms to the light-dark cycle. Deep sleep, and the hormonal cascade that produces it, begins here, in the quiet language between light and the 20,000 neurons that listen for it. Sleep fragmentation, meaning sleep that is repeatedly interrupted by brief arousals, even if total sleep duration appears adequate, is associated with effects comparable to those of significantly reduced total sleep. Research has shown that participants whose sleep was interrupted by a nurse every hour for one night, but who were allowed to return to sleep immediately each time, showed cognitive effects the following day comparable to participants who had experienced a full night of insufficient sleep. The depth and continuity of sleep matter as much as its duration. The body and brain require uninterrupted time in each sleep stage to complete the biological work those stages accomplish. fragmented sleep is insufficient sleep, regardless of how many hours it spans. The transition from wakefulness to sleep is not instantaneous. It unfolds gradually across a twilight period that researchers call sleep onset, during which the brain moves through a series of transitional states. Consciousness does not switch off like a light. It dims, flickers, dims further, and eventually crosses a threshold below which it no longer maintains coherent awareness. The precise location of that threshold is itself uncertain. Some researchers argue that sleep onset should be defined by the first appearance of theta waves on an electroencephalogram. Others argue that the behavioral criterion of failing to respond to an external stimulus is more meaningful. The boundary between being awake and being asleep is, in the end, less a line than a gradual dissolving. Hypnagogia, the state of consciousness that occurs while falling asleep, is characterized by involuntary images and sensations that can involve any sensory modality. Visual hypnagogic experiences may include abstract geometric forms, fleeting images of faces, or brief narrative scenes. Auditory experiences can include hearing one's own name called, snippets of conversation, or musical fragments. Some of the most creative individuals in history, including Thomas Edison, Salvador Dali, and Nikola Tesla, reportedly cultivated hypnagogic states deliberately as a source of creative insight, developing ways to capture the images and ideas that arose in that threshold state before they dissolved upon fully waking. The edge of sleep, it seems, can be a remarkable place. During REM sleep, acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter associated with learning and memory formation, is released at higher levels than during any other sleep stage. This cholinergic activation during REM is thought to be central to the associative, emotionally vivid quality of dream experience and to the emotional memory processing that REM sleep accomplishes. The dream state is, in neurochemical terms, awash in acetylcholine. It is also notable that many of the neurons in the brainstem that generate REM sleep are themselves cholinergic, producing and responding to acetylcholine in a self-sustaining circuit that maintains the REM state once it is initiated. The timing of slow-wave sleep is influenced by exercise. Moderate aerobic exercise, performed in the late afternoon or early evening, has been shown in multiple studies to increase the amount of slow-wave sleep obtained in the subsequent night. The mechanism is thought to involve the exercise-induced rise in core body temperature, which is followed several hours later by a compensatory drop, facilitating deeper sleep. Exercise also increases adenosine production, amplifying sleep pressure. Research has found that even a single session of moderate exercise can measurably improve sleep quality the following night, with effects on both sleep depth and sleep efficiency. The brain's default mode network, which becomes active during self-referential thought and mind-wandering, appears to undergo a reorganization during sleep that may be connected to the emotional processing function of REM. During waking states, the default mode network and the task-positive network, which activates during focused cognitive work, tend to be inversely active. During REM sleep, this inverse relationship weakens, allowing regions from both networks to be coactive. This unusual pattern of connectivity may facilitate the integration of emotional memories with broader contextual knowledge, helping the sleeping brain make sense of experiences in a way that waking-focused attention cannot easily achieve. The concept of sleep debt, the accumulated deficit that results from repeated nights of insufficient sleep, is a real neurobiological phenomenon rather than a metaphor. Laboratory studies have shown that the cognitive and physiological effects associated with chronic short sleep accumulate over days in a dose-dependent manner, and that full recovery of cognitive performance after a week of 6-hour sleep nights requires more than a single night of extended sleep. Research has shown that while people subjectively feel they have recovered after 1 or 2 nights of extended sleep, objective measures of cognitive performance remain below baseline for several days. Sleep debt, once accumulated, takes time to gently repay. Slow-wave sleep and its associated delta waves are thought to reflect the large-scale synchronization of neural activity across the cortex. During waking, different cortical regions tend to operate in their own local rhythms, processing information independently. During slow-wave sleep, this local independence gives way to a large-scale synchronization in which vast portions of the cortex oscillate together. This synchronized state is thought to facilitate the transfer of information between brain regions, support the pruning of excess synaptic connections, and allow the brain to restore the metabolic resources, including glycogen stores and protein synthesis machinery. That waking cognitive activity gradually depletes. Children and adolescents who obtain adequate sleep show measurably better outcomes across virtually every domain studied: academic performance, emotional regulation, physical health, immune function, growth, and mental health. A large-scale study of more than 8,000 children found that those who slept 9 to 10 hours per night showed greater cortical thickness, lower rates of anxiety, depression, and behavioral difficulties, and better cognitive performance than those who slept less. Adequate sleep in childhood and adolescence is not merely helpful, it appears to be a foundational requirement for healthy brain development. We are now 3/4 of the way through our journey. 75 facts about the science of deep sleep. And the picture has grown richer and quieter with each one. Sleep is not simply a biological necessity. It is a nightly act of maintenance, repair, creativity, and renewal. Every cell that has grown stronger tonight while you rested, every memory gently filed away, every emotion quietly processed and softened. All of it is happening as part of a system so elegantly designed that no technology has come close to replicating it. The final quarter of our journey belongs to the quietest facts, the ones that come at the edge of sleep, where science and experience begin to feel like the same thing. You might be feeling very heavy now. That is perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles. Your body has been here before. Every night of your life. It has found its way to this place. This deepening, this gradual release. It knows the way. You don't need to hold on to anything right now. Not the facts you've heard. Not the thoughts of the day. Not the weight of tomorrow. Like a tide that has been pulling back from the shore since before you were born, your body is doing what it has always known how to do. We're almost there now. During the deepest hours of sleep, the body produces its highest levels of prolactin, a hormone associated with immune function and a feeling of calm, drowsy contentment. Prolactin peaks in the early morning hours of deep sleep and may contribute to the distinctive quality of restfulness that follows a long, undisturbed night. It is one of many quiet hormones working through the dark, tending to the body without announcement. The eye movements of REM sleep follow patterns that are not entirely random. Research has found that these movements are sometimes correlated with the visual content of dreams, as though the dreaming eye is scanning a landscape that exists only within the sleeping mind. In that inner world, the eye is still alive, still looking, still searching for something just beyond the edge of knowing. Sleep spindles are generated in the thalamus, and their density across the night is considered a marker of sleep quality and cognitive health. Studies have found that higher spindle density in middle-aged and older adults is associated with better preservation of memory and cognitive function. Sleep spindles are being investigated as a potential biomarker for neurological health, quietly counting their way through the night as a measure of how well the brain is tending to itself. The body's cells undergo a process of selective autophagy during sleep, a kind of internal recycling in which damaged or misfolded proteins and cellular components are broken down and repurposed. This process is regulated in part by the same circadian machinery that governs sleep timing, and it is disrupted by irregular sleep schedules and sleep deprivation. Sleep is, in this cellular sense, a time of renewal that goes all the way down to the molecular level. The heartbeat during deep sleep becomes remarkably regular, more so than at almost any other time in life. Cardiologists sometimes use this nighttime regularity as a baseline measure of cardiovascular health. The quiet, steady rhythm of a sleeping heart is one of the most fundamental sounds of life, and in deep sleep, it finds its most serene expression. There is something quietly moving about a heart that rests even as it works. Steady, unhurried, and entirely its own. There is a class of neurons in the hypothalamus called sleep-active neurons that fire most strongly during sleep and that appear to actively promote and maintain the sleep state. These neurons use the inhibitory neurotransmitter, GABA, to suppress the arousal systems of the brain, creating the neurological conditions for sleep to deepen. Sleep is not merely the absence of wakefulness. It is actively generated by dedicated neural circuits that gently press the brain toward rest. The first time a human infant sleeps through the night represents a major developmental milestone, reflecting the maturation of circadian and sleep homeostatic systems that at birth are not yet fully organized. Newborns sleep in polyphasic patterns, cycling between sleep and waking throughout the day and night. As the circadian system matures over the first months of life, sleep consolidates into longer nocturnal periods. This consolidation is driven by the development of the suprachiasmatic nucleus and the maturation of melatonin production, and it unfolds at slightly different rates in different infants, reflecting the natural range of biological variation. Sleep has a language all its own. The slow oscillations of deep sleep, the sharp peaks of sleep spindles, the sawtooth waves of REM are as distinctive and readable as any written text to those trained to interpret them. Polysomnography, the recording of these electrical patterns alongside breathing, heart rate, and muscle activity, allows clinicians to read the story of a night's sleep in extraordinary detail. Every shift from one stage to another, every brief arousal, every transition to REM leaves its mark on the record. When you are deeply asleep, your sense of time dissolves. A night that includes multiple hours of slow-wave sleep and REM sleep can feel, upon waking, like no time at all, or like an eternity of inner experience. Time, which is constructed by the waking brain from continuous sensory input and memory, loses its grip in the absence of that construction. The sleeping mind exists outside of time, in a way that the waking mind rarely does. In the deepest stages of sleep, conscious experience approaches its minimum. Researchers studying the neural correlates of consciousness have found that the slow-wave oscillations of deep sleep correspond to periods in which cortical neurons alternate between states of high activity and near complete mot silence. During the silent phases, consciousness is reduced to its most minimal possible form. These are perhaps the quietest moments in a human life, a brief and recurring return to something like stillness. Sleep is the only state in which the brain allows its own metabolic waste to be comprehensively cleared. Every waking hour, the energy-intensive work of thinking, feeling, and perceiving generates metabolic byproducts. Sleep is when the account is settled, the glymphatic system, active now, is processing the residue of everything that happened today, quietly and without effort from you. Memory researchers have found that the emotional tone of a memory can change between encoding and later recall, and that sleep plays a role in this transformation. Memories of difficult or painful experiences tend to feel slightly less intense when retrieved after a night of sleep than they did when first formed. The mechanism involves REM sleep, which processes the emotional components of memory in a neurochemical environment that gently decouples the emotional charge from the factual content. Sleep does not erase difficult memories. It softens their edges. The sound of rain, of wind through leaves, of ocean waves, of a gentle stream, are among the most reliably sleep-inducing sounds that exist. Researchers have proposed that these sounds work by masking other, more unpredictable sounds that might trigger the brain's arousal response, and by activating a sense of environmental safety associated with shelter from the elements. These sounds have been present in every environment humans have ever slept in throughout evolutionary history. They are, in a sense, the original sleep sounds. Your brain during deep sleep is not entirely unreachable. Very loud sounds, particularly sounds with personal significance, can still penetrate the thalamic gate and reach awareness sufficiently to wake you. The sound of your own name is among the most reliable stimuli for this. So is the sound of a crying infant for a new parent. The brain, even in its deepest rest, maintains a thread of watchfulness, a biological attentiveness that ensures that sleep, however deep, is not a trap. NREM sleep and REM sleep work together in the service of memory in complementary ways. Slow-wave sleep appears to favor the consolidation of declarative memories, the kind that can be consciously recalled. Facts, events, semantic knowledge. REM sleep appears to favor the integration of new information with existing knowledge networks, supporting insight, pattern recognition, and the extraction of underlying rules from specific examples. Deep sleep and REM are not competing systems. They are two halves of the same conversation the brain has with itself each night, one building the scaffolding, the other filling it with meaning. The warmth of a sleeping body is one of the most ancient signals of safety in human experience. Across cultures, the practice of sleeping in proximity to trusted others has been the norm for most of human history. The isolation of individuals' sleep in separate rooms is a relatively recent cultural practice. The biology of safety and warmth is interwoven with the biology of sleep in ways that research is still working to fully characterize. Sleep protects the brain from the consequences of stress. Research has found that when people sleep after exposure to a stressful experience, the consolidation of the fear response is modified in ways that support recovery. People who sleep following a difficult experience show, on subsequent testing, a more modulated response than those who remain awake. The same period of sleep that clears metabolic waste and consolidates memories is also doing the quiet work of emotional regulation, helping the brain find a more balanced relationship with what it has experienced. The depth of sleep you achieve on any given night is influenced by the consistency of your sleep schedule. Research on circadian rhythms has found that irregular sleep timing, sleeping at different hours from night to night, disrupts the circadian organization of sleep, reducing the amount of deep sleep and REM sleep obtained, even when total sleep duration is adequate. Consistency of sleep and wake timing is one of the most well-supported behavioral recommendations for improving sleep quality, and it requires no technology, no medication, and no expense. Dreams, whatever else they may be, appear to serve a function in emotional memory processing that has no waking equivalent. The unique neurochemical environment of REM sleep, the quiet of norepinephrine, the rise of acetylcholine, creates a context in which the emotional memory system can work in a way it cannot during waking. People who are prevented from having REM sleep show reduced ability to recognize subtle emotional expressions in others the following day, as though the overnight emotional calibration has been gently disrupted. Sleep is tending to our emotional intelligence while we rest. The brain during deep sleep is in some respects closer to its own baseline than at any other time. The accumulated influences of the day, the social performances, the effortful thinking, the emotional reactions, the decisions, all of them produce a kind of noise in the neural system. Sleep reduces that noise. The slow oscillations of deep sleep sweep through the cortex like a tide going out, leaving behind a cleaner, more responsive surface. The person who wakes after deep sleep is, in a neurological sense, closer to their baseline self than they were before they closed their eyes. Every night, while you sleep, your immune system sends signals to your brain about its status. The brain, in turn, adjusts sleep architecture to support immune function when it detects infection or inflammation. This is why illness makes you sleepy. It is not a side effect. It is the brain actively responding to what the body needs. Fever, too, is influenced by sleep, and the fever that rises at night and falls in the morning reflects the circadian regulation of the immune system and its deep connection to the sleep-wake cycle. The period just before waking, sometimes called the hypnopompic state, is a transition out of sleep that has its own gentle characteristics. People sometimes experience hypnopompic images, vivid sensory experiences that persist briefly into waking awareness. Some of the most commonly reported ones involve visual images or difficulty moving the body, the latter being a brief, benign manifestation of the muscle atonia of REM sleep that persists momentarily into wakefulness. These experiences are entirely normal and reflect the gradual reassembly of waking consciousness from the fragments of sleep. The quality of your last thought before sleep has been shown to influence the emotional tone of the first dream of the night. Research using pre-sleep mood induction has found corresponding shifts in dream content in the first cycle of the night. What you bring to sleep with you becomes, in some small measure, the material of the sleeping mind. This is not a mystical claim. It is a reflection of how memory, consolidation, and emotional processing begin immediately upon sleep onset. Working with what is most recently and most vividly present. The neurons that fire during slow-wave sleep to produce the large, sweeping delta oscillations are some of the same neurons that fire during waking to generate conscious experience. They do not switch off during deep sleep. They change their rhythm. They shift from the irregular, high-frequency firing of waking into a slow, coordinated, almost musical oscillation that moves across the sleeping brain in waves. Sleep does not silence the brain. It changes the song it is singing. And here, at the end of 100 facts, the deepest truth of sleep emerges. Sleep is not a gap in experience. It is an experience unlike any other. It is the place where the body heals, where the mind reorganizes, where emotion finds its proportion, and where the noise of living falls quiet enough to hear the deeper rhythms underneath. Every night, in the dark, the sleeping brain does something extraordinary. It continues. It maintains. It repairs. It prepares, and then it gives you back. Every morning, to the world you left behind. Sleep is not where life stops. It is where life keeps its promises to itself. And so, our quiet journey through the science of deep sleep comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the first flicker of a sleep spindle, that tiny electrical bloom in the sleeping brain, all the way to the great delta waves that sweep through the cortex like tides sweeping a quiet shore. We discovered that sleep is not one thing, but many. A landscape of stages and rhythms that the body navigates with exquisite, wordless precision. From the glymphatic system tending to the brain each night, to the memory that grows stronger while you dream, to the emotion that wakes softer than it went to sleep. We have glimpsed how much is always quietly happening in the hours you cannot see. Deep sleep reminds us that much of what sustains us happens in silence. The most profound repairs, the deepest learning, the gentlest emotional healing, none of it requires effort or awareness. It asks only that you allow it. In the unhurried dark, the body tends to what the day could not, and in that tending, something essential is always being restored. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about unity. Every cell in your body, every quiet process, every slow oscillation moving through your sleeping brain right now, all part of one continuous, ancien, living thing. You are not a person trying to sleep. You are sleep itself, unfolding as it has always unfolded, in every body that has ever rested under a dark sky. Let your entire being dissolve into the slow, warm tide of deep sleep, into the place where thought becomes rest, and rest becomes renewal. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this gentle journey through the science of deep sleep helped your mind grow quiet tonight, A soft like or subscribe could help another restless soul find their way here too. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there is nothing you need to do now. Nothing at all. You've traveled deeply tonight. Through the invisible architecture of the sleeping brain, through the quiet machinery that has been keeping you alive and whole every night of your life. You can allow these thoughts of sleep science to fade now, like the last slow wave of a dream, dissolving into morning light, leaving only the warm, still calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if a gentle, patient weight has settled over you, exactly as it should, holding you here, holding you safe. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way delta waves move through a resting mind, not rushing, not falling, simply flowing into a place where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the glymphatic system will still be doing its quiet work. Every slow wave, every sleep spindle, every repair will still be available to you. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, the sleeping mind is always quietly tending toward the light. Good night.